Made these up ahead of time. This is the water leaf. This is going to be the blown over leaf scroll end. We got to the point where these are ready to weld. So I'm going to weld from this end back this way to weld this leaf into the end of the scroll. Draw this down. We want this whole area to be essentially a 1/4 inch thick when it's finished, so it'll blend into the rest of the scroll. So this is the leaf after it's been welded. It needs to be drawn down a little bit more in here, but we can do that after we finish the weld. We want to leave it a little heavy first. This is the bar that the leaf gets welded onto. Got the square corners done. Got this partially drawn out. Want to leave it so that you have some more to draw out to get your finished length. Welding from the fold back toward the end of the leaf here so that you drive all the crud out of the weld. I'm leaving the end where the weld's going to be heavy and then drawing it down to roughly 1/4 inch back here where the rest of the scroll is going to take off. After I weld it to the other bar, this will all get drawn out and tapered in. So it's 1/4 inch up to whatever it is at the other end, 1/2 inch. Doing a very blunt taper, drawing it down to a fairly fine edge, and not letting the end spread out. So we don't want to overlap the edges of the bar when we go to do the weld. All right, kind of formed a little shelf in there, drawing the end out to a nice thin edge so it'll blend real well. We go to put it together with the other one. Those two edges will go together to kind of index itself so you know where you're going. So this is the finished product. This matches the drawing that we have for the grill. And this is what we're going to start off with when we get to this point to scroll this up. So right now we have this end and the leaf welded together. We have this part of the bar done with the scarf ready to weld onto the leaf. So now we have to make sure that we get the leaf in the right direction. So if we look at this, this is how it's going to join together. And if you roll this around, you can see that the leaf needs to point up towards this shoulder. So this will be facing up this way on the anvil when you weld that together. You want the leaf facing up so that it's easy to hold on the anvil. If it was in this direction when you laid it on there, it would be real difficult to keep it from falling on the ground. You bring this out of the fire, have your scarf up, set it in place, lay the other bar on top of it so that the shoulders kind of register. That indexes the piece. You can hold the leaf with this, let go of the tongs, grab your hammer, and you're ready to weld. Get the right direction. All right. Make sure it's facing in the right direction when you put it on. And get it stuck. Once you get it stuck, you can go back in for another heat and really get the welds cleaned up. Have the leaf end stuck on the bar, taking another heat, another welding heat, with the leaf facing up in the fire so it doesn't want to burn off. You have to bring the heat up pretty slowly so you get the heat transfer all the way through the bar, because you can really only face the bottom of the bar into the fire. If you turn it over, then you're going to burn the leaf off pretty quick. I've got this side of the weld pretty well blended in. You can see no seam there. That's the ideal. I'm working on getting the sides blended in. Need to take another heat and finish this top up to get rid of this seam. When I forged this shape here with the square corners, I started to draw it out a little bit, but I didn't draw it out fully because I wanted to make sure I could get the weld and then get my finished length. Got plenty of material back here to draw it out. I don't have to worry about being too long. Your anvil has a lot of built-in measurements. If you look at it, hardy holes is a known size. This one's like 1.25 inches. You have a distance from here to here, which I think is 2 inches on this anvil. You have a distance here to here. But if you have a distance that you need that isn't on here, you can always just mark it with a soapstone. So I can come from here. We need 12 inches from where the leaf joins the scroll to the square corner. And I can just put a line on here. And that way, as I'm forging, I can hold it up here and check my length. All right, I refined that weld area, cleaned it up a little bit. We've got the thickness here. It's a little heavy right in there, but we're getting close to being where we want to be. Need to check the length to see if we're in the ballpark there. We need to gain another 1/2 inch or so. Now we need to check it for length, make sure we're in the ballpark there. We're pretty much right where we want to be. We need to clean this area up a little bit. We're going to gain a little length, but we should still be fine. We need to make sure that the length is proper for the size of the scroll we're making. We got that off of the drawing. We know we need 12 inches. And in order for the whole thing to work out, if you don't have the right length, you're never going to get there. It needs to be a nice even taper all the way down. If it's nice and smooth, it'll scroll nice and evenly. If you've got lumps and bumps, then you have to fight it because you have little kinks all the way through it. As we forge it down, we want to smooth up the surface. You can forge it down at a lower temperature that gives a much better surface finish, and then go along and knock off the corners. Makes it look nicer, gives it a better feel. It feels softer and doesn't look machine made. For the blown over leaf scroll, we're going to start off at the tip, just like all scrolls, and work our way around. Want to hold it up just a little bit off the anvil, and that'll help to roll the scroll over so it ends up being flat with the scroll. As we work it around, you want to keep it 90, down the center line of the anvil. You want to keep the scroll at 90 degrees to that. So you feed it around as you come around and bend it around the horn. So start at the tip, hold it up just a little bit, and bend it around. From here, we'll go get this up again. We'll go to the vise and the scrolling forks and work this area to try to get it into where it needs to be. Manipulate the scroll and finish forming it up. We're going to use the dog wrenches that we made earlier in the curriculum. Got one locked in the vise. Use this other one to help bend the scroll. And then you continually check it against your template or the drawing that we had earlier. Then we're going to bend the rest of this scroll around, and you're still fighting that leaf. In order to get bent right into here, sometimes it's easier to get in here with a pair of tongs, where you can get in there and get behind the leaf and bend that area that you can't really get to with a bending fork. Continue to bend this around. It's best to get the center right before you move on too much farther down the bar. Because once you get a bunch of scroll around it, it's real hard to get in there and adjust it later. As we get closer to this corner, we want to make sure if we're pulling on this that we keep this area cooled down. Otherwise, you could get a stress riser in there. Have a crack down the road. Usually about the time you're all done. The closer your forks are together, the tighter your bend is going to be. So, right now I'm basically got a fork here and the other fork is way out here, so I'm getting a nice gradual bend depending on my heat. If you have an isolated hot spot, it's going to kink there. But if I wanted to get a spot real close, I can come in here and bend it and just have the bend right between those 2 points. We knew from our earlier lessons that we didn't forge this corner here to a 90 degree because when this scroll comes off, it isn't at a 90. So if you've taken it to 90, you've got to open it back up again, and then you have a chance of getting a crack on the inside of that corner. So I've quenched this area in here so I can get a bend really close by pulling on here. without having to worry about opening up that corner. Need to adjust this leaf back this way a little bit. So it's pretty thin. I should be able to just get it in here with a bending fork and just pull it back. It's a little bit off that way. I'll give it another little more heat. I can use the scroll tongs and just tweak it over. Now we can compare it to the one that we did yesterday. They should all match up.